Here are some highly requested thrift store makeovers. Hey there, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I love to share high-end home decor and DIYs on a budget. If you like videos like this, please make sure to give this one a thumbs up and subscribe so that you too can become part of the familia. Earlier this week, I went thrift store shopping and I took you guys along. I also shared all of the things that I bought in this latest thrift haul. And today I am taking several of those items and I am giving them makeovers. Let's jump right in. So we're gonna jump right in with the most highly requested one, and it's the green vase. And I started off by getting myself some joint compound. We have been working around the house here, so we already had some on hand, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do because I had seen these artisan hand-painted earthenware vases over at Pottery Barn, and these were so expensive, but they were really beautiful. So I put some gloves on and I began applying the joint compound all over the vase. Now, before I did this, I made sure to clean off the surface of the vase, make sure there was no dust, dirt, or grime on it. And I usually do that with a spray bottle full of half alcohol and half water. I made sure to dry it all off and then I started applying this. Now, as you can see, I'm going from top to bottom or from bottom to up, and I'm doing long strokes, making sure I get in all those nooks and crevices because the little flowers that are on the vase, they actually had indentations inside of the vase, and I wanted to make sure I flattened those out. I made sure to cover the entire vase, and once I had the first layer down, I set it out to dry completely. Once that first layer was dry, I came back and I added another full coat. Now, if you don't have joint compound, it's totally fine. I'm sure some regular spackle would work for this. However, I would not recommend the Dollar Tree spackle because it is too light and I don't think it would stick very good for this application. But as you can see here, I'm trying to smooth everything out, but I'm not trying to be absolutely perfect. I will be sanding this down, but if you like the rough look, you can always leave it as is as well. When that second layer was completely dry, I came back in with some 220 grit sandpaper, and I just took a little bit of it, it didn't take much, and began sanding everything down to create a smoother finish. I wasn't looking for perfection, but I did want to remove those little ridges made from my fingers when I applied the compound, and I just kind of went through and just cleaned it all up. When it was smooth to my liking, I wiped everything off to make sure I removed all of the sanding dust. And then I came in and began giving it a layer of chalk paint. The chalk paint color I used for this was Milk Jug, and I'm using Folk Art Home Decor's line. And since I wanted the base coat to have complete coverage, I made sure to do 2 coats for this. And then it was the fun part, and honestly I was just winging it at this point because I had never done this before. And I took some antiquing wax and added it to the original paint that I used for the jug, and I wanted to just start adding different color and dimensions all over the vase to just make it look really old and worn. So I took a little bit of paint on my brush and I used these really soft flat ones from Plaid. I really like these. These are really high quality and they do a great job no matter what kind of application you're using it with. So I just kept doing this all over the vase. I made it darker in some areas and lighter in some areas. Now, the technique that I did really like was using the side of the brush, not the tip of the brush, but the side of the brush with a little bit of paint and rubbing that across the top area of the vase. I did horizontal strokes as well as vertical strokes, and I incorporated just the antiquing wax in some areas in order to give it an even darker finish when applying these strokes on the vase. And I just continued going around, adding little touches here or there, make sure that some areas were a little bit darker than the others, and just kept working the paint over the vase until I liked what I had. Now, some areas I went a little bit darker than I wanted to, so I just came back in with the base coat and added a little bit on top and just tried to smooth out a few areas here or there, and then I would go back and distress them. So this is basically modify as you go and just keep playing with it until you like the finish that you end up with. For the next transformation, we're going to be changing up this red metal box. The first thing I did was remove all of the stickers as well as the liner that it had inside. Next, I sprayed it down and wiped everything off, making sure it was nice and clean. I wanted to create a galvanized look, and I just looked in my stash of spray paint and I picked this silver one up that I already had on hand to go ahead and give it a base coat. So I usually add these little feet once I'm done with a project, but after looking at it, honestly, I didn't really like the way the silver was looking, so I decided to give it my signature galvanized metal look using my favorite folk art brushed metal paints. I do have a very detailed tutorial on how to give anything a galvanized look, and I'll make sure to link it in the description box below. I like using a makeup sponge for this application, and all I did was add the paint onto my makeup sponge, alternating between the two and just dabbing it all over the exterior of the metal box. So once the paint was dry, I came in with some of Dollar Tree's infamous green moss. You guys know this stuff gets everywhere. It's a little crazy, but I had this idea that I would love to see this green moss kind of poking through all of these holes, make it really organic, and I thought it would be a really pretty look. So I took some time and I added lots of little pieces in between these little holes to give it that greenery look. I then added some of Dollar Tree's floral foam so I can add some greenery. Since I didn't have that much, I lined the bottom, and then I came in with one of my favorite fillers for floral arrangements, and it's this Dollar Tree Christmas garland. I just kind of stuff it inside of any container where I'm going to add greenery, and it instantly fills it up with green. Now, if areas poke through, I do cover it up, but if you make a very full floral arrangement, you won't have a problem at all using this as a filler. I brought out my leftover floral stash. It's the same stash that I used to create my welcome wreath. And one thing I do like to do when I do end up buying a new floral bush is I actually like to have one really nice piece for an arrangement. This one I got at Walmart. It was less than $6, and look at the beautiful flowers on this bush. Now I just bought one because I think this is enough for an arrangement of this size, and then what I'll do is I'll fill in with the leftovers that I had previously. So honestly, all in all, with everything that I used for this arrangement, I am in for only $10, and it's going to end up looking like an arrangement that you buy at Kirkland's. So what I like to do whenever creating arrangements is I like to start in the center, and I'll put one tall stem in the center higher than all the rest and let everything kind of cascade downwards. And that's how I cut my stems. Now also what I like to do is if I have two of one particular flower, I will actually add it on both sides diagonally. Now I'm going to move this on the other side, you'll see in just a second, but this same flower is going to be on the other side diagonally across from it. And by doing this, you'll be able to see the same flowers on either side, no matter which way you look at the arrangement. I did bring in some white roses from my original stash, as well as a little bit of greenery. Finally, if there are any areas where that garland pokes through and I don't have a lot of coverage, I use the little moss balls from Dollar Tree and I just put them in little strategic places so that I can hide any of that garland showing and create more filler. All right, for the next one, we're going to be making over the laundry bin. Now, it was a little dirty, so I first started off by spraying it down and wiping it down very well to get all of the grime off of it. After it was clean, I took it outside to my little spray tent and began spraying it down. I used a Rust-Oleum spray paint in semi-gloss so it can still have that really nice enamel look on the outside. I made sure to spray paint on the inside as well as the exterior. I also sprayed the lid inside and out as well. Now, a lot of you suggested that I create a bread box out of this, which would have been a very nice idea. However, I already have a place where I store my bread in my kitchen. What I didn't have was a place to put away my excess rice. I have a beautiful container where I store rice that I use on a regular basis in our kitchen when we renovated our kitchen. If you haven't seen that makeover video of our entire kitchen overhaul, I'll go ahead and link it in the description box below. So since I purchased rice in large quantities, this box was actually the right size for me to store my remaining bag with any remaining rice that I can't put into that glass container. The next piece we are tackling is the lamp. I started off by removing the stickers and cleaning the lamp. Then I put blue painter's tape onto the electrical cord. Then I took some sandpaper and began to sand everything down to give it a little bit more of a porous surface since I was going to paint it. The lampshade that I'm going to be putting on this lamp is going to be of a khaki color, so I wanted to keep the base nice and light. I also didn't want to use any colors that were too bright or too specific because I like to keep these pretty neutral so that I can change my decor around the lamp as often as I want. So I got my home decor chalk paint in white Adirondack and gave everything 2 complete coats, making sure that the first coat dried completely before I went on to the second one. Once everything was dry, I came back with that fine sandpaper again, and I began sanding down the surface a little bit and to distress some edges. Finally, I got some of Debbie's Design Diaries clear wax in order to apply it all over the lamp. Now, I get asked this a lot, why do I use clear wax? Well, for an item that's going to be touched, because obviously this is a lamp and people are going to touch it to turn it on and off, I'm going to want to seal the wax. Chalk paint is very chalky and you can get fingerprints, you can get dirt on it, and it'll just stick to it if it's not sealed properly. So that's why I like to use wax like this, so that it protects the surface. Now, if it's something that I'm going to put up high on the wall, on a high shelf, or something that's just not going to get touched, you don't have to do that. But for something like this, again, that's going to get handled pretty regularly, I want to seal it in and cover up that chalk paint so that it doesn't ruin the finish. So for the final DIY today, we are tackling the candle holder with the bug. Now, if you ever come across anything that has burnt on candle on it like that, all you have to do is put it in your freezer for a few hours, pull it out, and the wax will actually pop right out. Everything came out super clean and easy. And then I gave the glass portion a good wash and wiped everything down, make sure that everything was nice and clean. I started off by adding blue painter's tape to the glass area, and then everything went wrong. So my thought process was, let's do something different. Let's venture out to a different color that I don't normally use. And I decided to use this Java chalk paint. I thought maybe it can have a dark base, and then I can add lighter colors on the top. Well, that didn't work out so much. After it dried, I came in with my French linen and I started applying it on top. I first dry brushed it on, but it didn't look right. So then I was like, well, let me just paint it French linen. But then I didn't like it because it looked like it had too much purple undertones. And then I decided to sponge different areas in French linen. And you can see this is not turning out very nicely. Oh yes, what a hot mess. Look at this. This is terrible. And I just kept doing it because I figured I tried to save it. But nope. And apparently I wasn't done killing this piece. As you can see, I had wiped some of the French linen off, and then I was like, well, maybe I'll add some green and make it look like an outdoor kind of urn, maybe patina, copper. I don't know what I was thinking. So then I started adding it all over the place. And yeah, that didn't work either. So to make matters worse, I thought, hey, why not? Let's just dry brush some white on there and see if it looks aged. Now, I'll be honest with you, what I did find is this technique that I really loved. It's where I'm basically brushing the side of the brush over the top surface of the piece, and it gave me this aged look. However, I did not like the colors underneath it. I thought it was just too much. So then I painted it white, and then I painted it green. All this to share with you that if you ever think that I have my crap together, nope. Sometimes I just fall flat on my face, but it's okay because I did save this. This is what I ended up doing. I had some aged gray Rust-Oleum chalk paint that I have had for a long time, and I had not used it, so I said, hey, what the heck? And I gave everything one complete coat of this Rust-Oleum chalked paint, and it was a beautiful gray color actually. At least at this point, it was starting to look so much better. Then I came in with some of my white chalk paint and I began painting in between all of the nooks and crevices. And then I came back and did that technique that I did earlier onto it, where I have paint on the brush, not a lot, and then what I do is I actually wipe the side of the brush, not the tip of the brush, but the side of the brush across the surface, and it picks up all of the paint in just the right amount, and I think it looks so amazing. It looks like it's actually stone and it's been aged. So I really like this. I did this all around the surface and I was really happy with how it turned out. When it was dry, it was time to remove the tape. But apparently this little thing was not done giving me a run for my money because I got 2 pieces of painter's tape stuck inside. I was, however, able to get them out, but it was no easy task. And as you can see here, the top of the candle piece is still that original color because I'm not able to paint underneath it because the glass is adhered to it. But there's a couple of different options that you can do if you ever encounter something like this. One of them is you can use sand like I'm doing right here, and you can spread it across the bottom, and as you can see, it covers the color up. And then you can add a candle. Or you can choose something more organic, perhaps some green moss, and this is all I had left over from that previous arrangement. And I just spread it across the bottom. Again, it covers that brown color very nicely, and then you can add some vase filler.
Well, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to give this video a like if you did, and let me know in the comments below which transformation was your favorite. I hope you guys had fun with 2 videos this week, and I can't wait to be back next week with another home decor and DIY video. So until then, adios.